Alright boys and girls, I'm doing a little video in the yard. We're pretty busy today, but before we start I want to do a little shout out to my little friend Jack Shaw. So Jack is a local lad. This is just a bit of banter, a local lad. This young man has got a skip company around here. That's his Platinum Skip Hire. I'm his idol, so he wanted to get himself a skip company and he started, look at that little face. I tell you what a boyo. But anyway, today we are going to talk about permits. There's one of our skip trucks there, 10 years old, still going strong. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to get the boys to fill up this Arctic whilst I do the video. And what I wanted to talk to you about today is permits. So, alright bro. A lot of people have asked me about waste permits and how much they cost. I've got the boys to take the beeper off the back of that so we can hear, because I just did a video 2 minutes ago and all you could hear is the beeper on the back of the machine, because the beeper's right there and I was stood here, so I've got him to turn that off. So what I want to talk to you about is waste permits. There's been loads of questions after my last video about waste permits. So this is a normal transfer station. Waste comes in like this customer is coming in with his wood and he's tipping that there. He'll tip that there, we'll give him a ticket, he pays a few quid and he drives out. Then we send that to the power station. Really simple. But then there's a lot of people that do this without a license or on an exemption. Do it with exemptions, which you can do now. You can store wood on an exemption. The Environment Agency are stopping all of them. So if you're a builder who takes waste back to your yard or anything like that, the waste exemptions are going to be stopped completely, including for us. So what we have is, we have a full permit here. So we can screen, shred, crush, people can tip, mix waste and everything else. So it's nice and straightforward. But what happens is, we use an exemption to also make sure that we can have our wood there. So we use an exemption and the wood is allowed to go outside. We have a permit and an exemption. So unfortunately they are taking away the exemptions completely. So this wood will have to be under a building, because on our permit, each permit has its own set of rules. And on our permit it says that we must have all our waste under cover. There is exceptions to the rule, such as if you're doing some work on a building or whatever, but as long as you're not taking the mick, it's pretty straightforward. Everything needs to be inside. We will commence the video when it's moved, because I've turned the beeper off on the machine, so I don't want people close by. I'm standing here being a banksman and also the video man. Alright Jord, right, so going back to what we were saying, so some permits everything must be inside, some permits you can have rubbish outside, some permits are quarries. There's all different permits, but a lot of people have asked me the price of a permit. How much is a permit and everything else? Right, so when the exemptions are taken away next year, we will need to do either a variation on our permit to keep the wood outside, so we'll do a variation which says we can then keep the wood outside, or we'll build a building. A variation is an expensive do, so we're just going to put a building over it. Right, but let's go back to the actual prices. So there's little Jack, look, look at my clipboard, look, it's an Amazon bloody pass. I sellotaped it to it because it's real windy, but let's just give Jack another look. There he is, Platinum Skips, and there's little Jackie boy, look, there he is. So going to what we're going to say here. Right, so for you to apply for a brand new permit, the price is there, £4,000 for the initial application. So your initial application for your Environment Agency, it's £4,000 to apply and probably another 4,000, 5,000 in fees to get different things written up. So you have a fire management plan. I will give you a list as a matter of fact. So you have a pest control plan, emissions plan, odour plan and a noise plan. And each one of those is £1,241 for the Environment Agency to have a look at. This information is straight off their website, so I printed it out. So they'll look at it and they'll say, yeah, we like that or we don't, and then you go back and backwards and forwards. So for instance, they might say, we want a certain type of guttering, or they might say we want a certain type of whatever it may be, and that's what you have to do to comply with the rules of the Environment Agency. and that is what that £1,000 is. So if you say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so you've got £4,000 for your permit, and then obviously if you need additional help, it's another £5,000 for all that stuff on top of that. So it's quite an expensive do. Then we come to your yearly fees. So each year that you're operating, your yearly fee will be around £4,000 to £4,500 per year for a standard setup like we have here. Waste coming in, waste going out. Very, very straightforward. That's what it'll cost you. Right. If you have a thing called a bespoke permit. So what a bespoke permit is for us, we can only do skips coming in, we can recycle them, we can load them, but we can't really do a great deal on a bespoke permit. A bespoke permit means it's specifically made for you. So if you're looking at getting a waste transfer station, you can do a bespoke permit, and the bespoke permit might say, for instance, I want to be able to shred waste outside. Okay, we don't do that. We put our shredder in the building and then we do it inside. But on a bespoke permit, you can do different things. It might be that, it might be, I don't know, you want to store batteries in a certain way. You know, everything has to be quite well documented, if you like. That's probably the best way, and it costs the Environment Agency a lot of time to get that information, process it, and obviously the Environment Agency have got to be happy with what you're doing. So that is the other part of what we're saying. Tailor-made to what you're doing. So it takes the Environment Agency a lot of time. What I will say is a few of my friends have been looking at permits and everything else, and the Environment Agency, to be fair to them, are quite helpful. If you're not taking, if you're not taking the piss and doing stuff you shouldn't do, you won't have problems with the Environment Agency. It's as simple as that. We've been going for 15 years. We don't do much. We just do what we're doing here. It comes in, we put it in a lorry, and it goes out. As long as you're half playing the game, you're all right. Better off just doing it right, making a little bit and being here forever, rather than making a big load of money overnight and then next thing your dog goes through. But what do I know? What do I know? Unfortunately, I'm just the same as every other little transfer station. I just have to take a little bit here and make a little bit on the way out. Say a builder. Say a builder, he's got a yard outside. He brings all his stuff back to his yard. He sorts it out. He could sort his own waste out on an exemption, which is what they're for. They're not for the people who deal in waste, and that's the thing that the Environment Agency, I think, are trying to get people away from. Because at the end of the day, the Environment Agency have more control if they have access to your site, so they can come, and obviously they're limited to what they can do. If you've got a permit, they can breach you and everything else, and you will end up paying money for it, basically. If you don't stick with your permit, your prices you pay per year can be put up. So that £4,000 could be £8,000. So that's what they do. They kick you in the pocket. If you've got no waste permit or waste exemption or anything, basically there's not a lot that they can do. So that is a concern for the Environment Agency, because they don't know what anybody's doing. Right, so should you get a waste permit? Let me give you some ideas. So if you're a builder, for instance, you're a builder, you go on a job, you come back from your job every day, and when you get back from your job, you sort your rubbish out into the skips outside your unit. So you put your wood where your wood, your rubbish where your rubbish. A waste exemption would be for you, because you are not anybody who's dealing in waste. You are just putting waste into individual skips, and then a waste management company will come and deal with it. If you are the waste management company who's picking that skip up, a waste exemption would not be suitable. So you would need a permit, because you're dealing in other people's waste. So the Environment Agency is stopping waste companies having a waste exemption. So they're making you have a permit. So they know where everything goes. So everything on our site, the wood goes to power, the waste goes for further recycling. They can follow the step each way along its path. And that is what it's all about. So if you're a company who's going to get into having a waste permit, I'm going to tell you what you need to do. And I have personally been through every part of this next scenario that I'm going to tell you about. So when you get a site, you're going to need concrete. That is part of the job. You must have concrete, really. The Environment Agency will not let you put a waste business onto a muddy floor. It must be a surface where stuff can't get through it, because like the man's pushing the waste up there, we must be able to keep on top of it all the time. Keep pushing it into the shed and into the lorries. The second thing you will need is planning permission. And let me tell you, planning permission can be very difficult to get. So this is a nuisance type of business, as they call it. So my next door neighbour is a scrapyard. Sims, you've probably heard of it. They've got a frag machine. I'll zoom into it, look. A massive, that's the frag, the top of the frag machine there, look. And it is massive, right? So he shreds hundreds of thousands of tons of waste a year through his massive shredder. And that goes obviously to China and places like that. So we've got a scrapyard there, and we've got two other skip companies down the same road. And what you'll find is with waste companies is they want them all on the same area, so the council will want it. So the first step to getting a permit is your planning permission. For your planning permission, you are going to need a lot of things. You will need a good site, a decent size area. A big concern for the councils with skip companies, the main concern is traffic. So traffic can be a real problem, and you will have to go through the same process as you're going through with the Environment Agency, but you'll be going through it with the council. And their rules are different from the Environment Agency's. So you need to have certain schedules for your pest control, vehicle movement, vehicle management, and everything else. And that is part of the job. The council will want to come to your site, have a look around, check everything, see if they like it, see if they like the idea, make sure you've got no neighbours, no people living in normal houses nearby, you can't have any houses. We have got on our site a 24-hour permit, which means we can work on site day or night. We cannot have deliveries coming in after 7 in the morning, before 7 in the morning or 7 at night, but we can run 24 hours on the site, so we can shred through the night, we can screen through the night. And the reason for that is there's no houses within about 2 miles of, well, not 2 miles, maybe a mile of where I'm stood. So we can work anytime we want, which is a big advantage for our site, really, because we can basically do a lot of work in the evenings if we're really busy. So once your planning permission's gone through, which will be a battle, it always is, because they don't like skip companies. It took us a lot of years to get the planning permission. Then you go through the permit process, which I've listed there for you. So realistically, you're talking a couple of £1,000 for your planning permission minimum. Flood risk is a big problem. You can pay £3 or £4 grand for a flood management plan, and a flood management plan is not part of the Environment Agency's thing. So there's a lot of things to go through. So basically, your pest control, your noise control, your flood management, your water plan, your fire plan, and your noise and vibration plan. This is all on top of your £4,000 fee, and it's different agencies you're dealing with. So it is a real chew. But once you've got your permit and you can recycle waste, you've got two little advantages. One, you're not looking over your shoulder all day and worrying about the Environment Agency coming in and telling you off and catching you doing something and being potentially locked up. And the other thing is you can obviously start taking waste legally. It is just a very long process. That is the problem. And I've discussed this with various people, and from these guys getting their exemptions taken away, I don't think a year from now is long enough to get planning permission done and a permit put in and everything passed.